is up, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going over our second cash flow form. If you missed my first cash flow form walkthrough, I will link it right here, and you can watch that video first if you want to. It's more of a basic cash flow form, but I go through a lot of my thought process as I'm receiving it for the first time. So I recommend that you watch it first. This one is going to be very different, a little bit more complex. They are all anonymous, and just to remind you, my cash flow forms are the homework that my clients give to me before we meet for the very first time. So I don't really know anything about them at this point except for what they tell me on the cash flow form. So let's go ahead and jump into this one. I do want to keep a balance of not just blabbing on and on and on about things, but I also do want to say enough so that you can see my thought process as I go through the cash flow form as if I'm going through it for the first time. So I'll do my best to find a healthy balance of both. Let's go ahead and start with the income. So monthly income, right off the bat, we know that this is a teacher. $2,600 is the first paycheck from the school. Paycheck number 2 is from Longhorn. They said, I've never kept track of how much I make there in a month. I'm guessing $300 a month, give or take. It just depends on how much I work. So we also know that she has a very flexible income. She can make more if she wants to work more. Paycheck number 3 is tutoring money. So $20 every week at least, sometimes more. And then they can also score high school games. It's $50 a game added to my paycheck that month. So this tells me a lot. Let's go through the pros of their monthly income first. Their income on the cash flow form tells me that this is a very ambitious person, a very go-getter. They really have high expectations for themselves. They're not afraid of hard work. These are all wonderful things that I definitely want to bring up in the first session and tell them, like, I can see your potential. I can see how much hard work you put into your teaching and then willing to be able to go and work after that. It's exhausting, right? So, but this person, they have the hard work and the grit that it's going to take to reach their financial goals. And I definitely want to point that out. Another obvious pro is that they have the capacity to make a lot of money. And this is definitely a pro as we work toward the savings, toward the debt, whatever it might be. They've got a lot of ammunition that they can use. And I think that they'll be able to make a lot of progress in a very short time. Here's what their income also tells me on more of the cons side. Having so much possible income really can be a con if you don't have control over your spending, because it can create a very false sense of security for that person. I can spend, whatever, I can treat myself because I can just go and make it back next month. It's a very easy excuse to just keep spending and spending. It's not honestly that much different from gambling because they just always think that they can make it back, and so then the spending never stops. I could definitely see possibly like an I deserve this type of mentality, and I'll go ahead and throw up the overspend cycle here on the screen so that you can see it. I talk about this in some other videos, and I definitely talk about it in my one-to-one coaching program, 12 Weeks to Wealth. The spending cycle can be so entrapping when someone has a lot of access to making money. And I know that sounds kind of backwards, like we see making money as this good thing, like it can get you out of debt, it can get you closer to your savings, but it can also be very entrapping because I can just make it back. I can spend whatever I want. I deserve this. I deserve that. So I definitely see how this could get her into trouble. And so I want to highlight the pros, of course, but also bring that to light too, so she sees both sides of the coin. Diving into the expenses now, we've got rent at $957 a month, gas, electric and gas together, phone, cable, no big red flags. Every once in a while I'll get like a phone amount that is just astronomical and we can shop around and find a better deal. I really don't see that happening here. Those all seem very reasonable. Groceries and restaurant I talked about in the first cash flow form that I walked you guys through, and she already made a note right below. This is an area I want to fix. I'm spending way too much on happy hours and eating out. And I talked about in the last cash flow form, I don't usually tell them, hey, these should be different numbers. I usually ask them how they feel about it, and we can go from there. And sure enough, she's already figured it out when she filled out the cash flow form. And that's honestly a huge reason of why I have them do this in the first place. They don't walk into that first session not really knowing where they stand. She knows this is already a priority and something that I want to address. Moving on to transportation, gas is at $65.82, very reasonable. Repairs, tires, oil, license and taxes, insurance. I talked about insurance in the last video already, so I'm not going to go over that again. I will say there were even more details on this cash flow form that I actually cut out because it was just going to be a little bit overwhelming. I mentioned that in the first video. Sometimes I don't get a lot of information and sometimes I get a lot, like every single detail about every single line item. I cut out a lot just because I wanted to focus on certain things and we don't need to get bogged down with all the details, but it just goes to show you the difference between cash flow forms that you will receive as a financial coach. So we've got toiletries, cosmetics, nails, hair. Okay, this line item caught my eye right when I went through this the first time. Education, $19.50 a semester. That's a big chunk of change going out every single semester. This will definitely be a conversation that I have with her. Are you working on your master's? How many semesters do you have left? Does this include everything? Does this include textbooks, other things you have to buy for class? There's a whole conversation I would definitely have about this. How are you paying for it? Does it just kind of happen? Are you putting a little bit away each month? If she's not planning and she's not preparing, this is going to definitely set her back every 6 months. And I'm sure that's very, very frustrating to work really hard each semester, get caught up or pay off things that you've bought, and then all of a sudden you've got this education payment that you've got to pay for again for school. So that's a big item, definitely a priority that I would be talking to her about. And also one more thing I wanted to note about that is that whenever she does get her master's or whatever she's going to school for exactly, when she finishes, that will be a bump in her pay, most likely. Has she started talking to the school about that? Does she know what that bump will look like? Sometimes that can be good motivation just to remember it's not for nothing. Subscriptions, very basic, Spotify, Hulu, Flow, dues and memberships, laser hair removal, gym, birthday, Christmas gifts. The gym stuck out to me as a little bit on the higher side, probably some sort of like CrossFit or training. I don't ever have a problem with my clients having an expensive gym membership or any gym membership as long as they are using it. Is she going to the gym and working all of these jobs and doing schooling? I don't know. Is she Superwoman, basically, is the question. We don't know. So I would have a conversation with her. Is there any way that you could pause the gym membership for a couple of months, get, the debt, the savings, whatever, we haven't got that far yet, but get everything financially under control, and then you can resume the gym membership. Or is it something that doesn't matter to you at all? You just forgot you're paying for it. Can we go ahead and cancel it? That's another conversation I would have. I would rather my clients have a gym membership that costs $129 and them go to the gym than them have a gym membership that costs $20 and they don't go. Birthday, Christmas gifts. It looks like she was very, very thorough in remembering things and really putting it all out here, which is good. Clothing, $200, and entertainment, $100 a month. Retirement fund. We've got a question mark there. We can look at my check stub together and try to figure it out. Retirement and investing is definitely something I cover in my one-on-one program. We don't talk about it at all in the first session unless they have very specific questions, but usually we cover that in like the second or third session together. First, we just want to put out the immediate fires, and then later on when we've got those under control, we can start to look at investing. Any other savings? None. Didn't look like she was too happy about that. Renter's insurance, Sam's Club, Southwest credit card. That's a little bit of a red flag. We do not want to be paying for a credit card. There are so many free cards that are out there. And then AAA. I don't like that we don't know anything about retirement. We don't have any savings. That's going to definitely be a priority after we tackle some of the initial debt payments and get her not in the red, not spending more each month than she's bringing in. I definitely want to look at the savings because, again, with so many income streams, it can create a very false sense of security that I don't really need savings because I can just work a little bit more and pay for whatever breaks down. That can be a risky game, and that's also a lot of times how people go into credit card debt because they're not prepared. Something bigger comes up that they weren't expecting, and it has to go on the credit card. All right, and the debt payments. So car payment, we've got the minimum payment, the interest rate, the balance here. This is a lot different from my first cash flow form. This looks way more similar to what I use now in my financial coaching, and it gives us a lot more info, which I love. Great interest rate on that. Don't love the balance, of course. Would definitely talk to her about her car, but as you can see, there's some other things going on that would take precedent. I don't even think I would touch the car conversation in the first session because there's just so much going on here and I don't want to overwhelm her. So I'm not going to read all of these. You can pause and take a look at it if you would like to. So we've got credit card 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can read some of the notes here on the side. I'm not going to read every single word that's on the screen, but basically the Discover card was huge. It was way bigger than it is currently. She did a 0% transfer to the Commerce card, and the Discover balance got ran back up again. So now she's got a balance on the Commerce, on the Discover, and then some smaller balances on a couple of the other cards. This definitely confirms what I was thinking when I saw her income of the cards just kind of get out of hand. I work a little more to pay off the cards get out of hand again. I work a little more. And she's just on this overspend cycle of like overspending and then having to work so hard. And sometimes it's not enough to pay off the cards. And she's just in this kind of slow downward spiral. So we are battling a strategy of basically, I'm going to spend whatever feels good. I'm not going to track anything. And then I'll just work really, really hard, work all the hours that I can, and hope that it's enough to pay off the cards. In the past, it hasn't been. So what we need to do is put some structure in place. My credit card strategy for her would be to call each credit card that has a balance currently and basically ask for assistance. Does that mean a lower interest rate? Does that mean a temporary lower minimum payment? Ask if there's anything that they can do to help you out while you get this under control. Another conversation that I would have with her would be about her credit score. I didn't ask for her credit score on the cash flow form. Usually that's something that we talk about a little bit later on in the program, but I do think it's important to address because currently she is renting. Does she eventually want to buy a house soon? We do want to focus on the credit score and keeping that high if that's the case. And that means basically just keeping the cards at $0, but keeping them open. We don't necessarily want to close a bunch of credit cards all at once because that will make her credit score take a significant dip. My next conversation that I would have with her would be, okay, there are two ways that we can attack this. One is to cut expenses and the other one is to raise our income. We can do all these other things. We can call the credit cards, we can look at our credit score, keep things open, whatever. But at the end of the month, what I really want to accomplish is cutting expenses and raising income. I don't want her to cut so ruthlessly that it sets her up for failure, just like I don't want her to have an income goal that is unachievable. But I would try to find some sort of balance with her. What are some things that you could cut back a little bit on this month? See how you do. Maybe we can cut a little bit more the next month, just as we approach the income. Are there certain things that you can commit to for sure this month where you can make extra money and we can attack some of these larger interest rate balances and get those gone as quickly as possible? A big goal I would also have for her for the next month is to just use her debit card and one other credit card so that it is way easier to track what she is spending and we can put some more structure in her life that way. I want her basically to take all these other cards out of her wallet, unsave them from her browsers when she's shopping online, take them off Amazon. There's a lot of places where your card numbers are, and it's just too easy to click a click and spend all this money and not be able to track it and not know where your money's going. This is usually a very challenging task for my clients is to stop using all of the cards and just stick with their debit card and their credit card. Eventually, this will probably be something I talk about with her in her second session, but eventually what I want her to be able to do is be spending the money that she made from the month before. We're not paying for things that she bought months ago, and we're not using her current month's income. We're actually using the month prior. And the reason that I do this is that cash flow then is not a problem. A lot of times people are like, oh, I get paid on this day, so I gotta wait to buy groceries, or I can't buy gas until whatever. And it's like, if you are spending the money that you made the month before, it's already there. It's sitting in your checking account and you don't have this tight cash flow problem. In her situation, this is even more important because her income is so variable with the extra hours that she is working at Longhorn and doing the games and whatnot. So it's even more important for her to spend last month's money because it's already done. She's already worked those hours, she's already gotten paid, and so she knows what that amount is. The current month, that's kind of the cycle that she got stuck in. She would spend more, so she'd have to work more. She'd spend more, so she has to work more. And we want to end that cycle. I haven't even talked about the student loan yet, so let me go ahead and mention that real quick. So parents cover the school loans. I have to pay them back, and there's no interest this way. This is her biggest piece of debt, but it's also to family members, which I think weighs a little bit heavier on you depending on the situation and whatnot. But it sounds, just from the verbiage that she's using, the all caps, things like that, I think that this is weighing on her, and she really wants to get this stuff under control so that she can start to pay them back. So the last conversation I would have with her, besides budgeting and going through the line items and all that, is basically just encourage her that this is very doable. She has a lot of ambition. She is a hard worker. She can do this. This is very, very doable with the income streams and things that she's already got set in motion. When I had her as a client, my program was actually 6 months long. So I could kind of say, based on other clients that I've had, this is where I could see you getting to by the end of the 6 months. And I could definitely see her being credit card, debt-free, having a small savings. We probably wouldn't prioritize that until after a lot of the debt has been taken care of. I would absolutely love to see her being able to have a conversation with her parents on when she's going to start the payments for the student loans. And that way it just gives them a boost of confidence too, that she does have this under control. She is an adult that's crushing it, and she's gonna be paying them back. And after looking at her numbers, I would feel very confident saying all of that, because the average client that worked with me when I was doing my 6-month program, they paid off $10,000 worth of debt, or they were able to save that same amount. So looking at her debt, knowing what clients usually do when they're working with me, I think 10K is very reasonable. She has just a little bit more of that in credit cards at the moment, but with the extra income streams that she has and some of the expenses that I think she could cut back on, I really think that that would be doable for her. This was my second cash flow form walkthrough. I hope you guys really enjoyed this, really learned a lot, and I just hope it's so practical for you, seeing real life numbers, seeing my thought process as I'm going through the cash flow form for the first time. If you liked this video and my first one, definitely let me know in the comments below so I can do more. I'll probably do, like I said, about 3 to 5 of them, kind of judge and see where you guys are at. If you're reacting well to them, I can keep doing more. I have a lot of them, and I will see you guys in the next cash flow form walkthrough.